well, let me just tell you that when I went to that convention, it had been 8 full years of campaigning on the grassroots level for Ron Paul. And like you mentioned, I was involved with that money bomb. And honestly, I was going all over the country to like go to these meetings and really that's why I'm in that movie For Liberty, which is all about the grassroots effort about Ron Paul. So by the time I got myself to the convention in 2012, I knew that it was going to be an uphill battle, even though 2008, we were very green. Everybody that was involved in that was very green. We didn't even know what a delegate was. Then by 2012, our group had learned what delegates were, and we took advantage of the rules, meaning we followed the rules as best as we could, and we got the 5 states. We won 5 states for Ron Paul, which meant that he could have been elected from the floor. Of course, that didn't happen because they changed the rules in the middle of the night during a fake hurricane. It used to be hurricane. It wasn't Hurricane Isaac. It was Tropical Storm Isaac. I guess it was Hurricane Isaac down in Haiti or something. But by the time it was coming towards us, it was Tropical Storm. And I was there. And I can tell you that the person at the hotel was looking at, you know how they have TVs on and stuff. And he's looking at it and he's like, this is Florida. Why are they saying this is a hurricane? This isn't a hurricane. So and flights were coming in and out of the airport. Commercial flights can't fly during a hurricane. That was kind of a tip-off, right? That what's going on? But it was rainy. I'll give it that. And it was a little blustery. And I had also gotten, and I might still have this thing, and a memo that was sent to everybody, all the delegates, saying that even though, you know, this day has been canceled with the convention, go out and do some shopping. They were trying to get everybody to go out shopping during a hurricane, no less. So what ended up happening is me and a lot of the Ron Paul people, we wanted to go down and to the first day of this convention to see what was going to go on. And we got dressed up and we went down there and had to show our credentials and everything. And the chairman, what's his name, Rivas, he showed up on the stage and they had this like very gratuitous, all sorts of flat screen TVs display going on. And he came out and he started the RNC and then he banged the gavel and then he said it was called off. And everybody was freaked out because it's like, well, what are the rules for that? What does that mean? So we just hung out for a little bit. And then all those flat screen TVs sparked to life and this huge presentation about how great Romney was comes on. And they're showing wheat and cars being, you know, sparks of cars being put together and all these things to show how wonderful America is. And they're showing Romney with like his Oxford shirt unbuttoned and he's rolling up his sleeves and he's getting ready to take on all the challenges of saving this great nation. And then all of a sudden there's huge applause. When I say huge, I mean huge. And there was, let me tell you, it was just the Ron Paul people in there. And I'd say there's like maybe a couple hundred, maybe. And everybody's like, where is this applause coming from? It was been piped in. And that afternoon when I got home, I called back to my hotel. I called back home to Rhode Island and people were telling me, wow, everybody seems to really like Romney, huh? I saw it on TV. I was like, what are you talking about? They said everybody was clapping, everybody's going nuts. I said, no. And that was one of the first things that kind of like, what, you know, aside from the fact that flights are going in and out for a hurricane and they'd sent out a memo to go shopping during a hurricane, now we've got this fake applause going on. So that was the first thing. That night after they had canceled it, they had emergency meetings, I guess, with every state. Our state, Rhode Island, was in the same hotel as Virginia. All the delegates, we were in the same hotel. And I also have to say that the hotels they had us in were very far away from the convention center, very far away. And we were all scattered all over the place. But this reason why this is important, Virginia had crafted something called the Minority Report. The Minority Report was basically saying, don't change the rules. You've had 4 years to like think about what you want to do. Why are we doing this literally in the middle of the convention? Don't do it. And Rhode Island had supported this minority report. However, during the middle of the night, our Republican National Committee woman changed her vote. And she, for everybody in Rhode Island, all the Republican Party in Rhode Island, she decided, because she used to be an English teacher and appreciated grammar, and they changed the grammar, that she decided she agreed with the rules change and didn't want to do the minority report anymore. Mm-hmm. So people in my, Romney delegates and everybody were like, what? You can't just change my vote. Who are you? And she's like, well, I'm the committee person and I'm in this committee. And I said, so nonetheless, now everybody's getting down to go on the bus. They had these buses come and everybody's feeling very important because it's a second day of the convention, but the first day was called off. So everybody's getting ready to go down the bus and see the convention center. And they send over a bus and everybody gets on the bus. And then I'm at the back of the line and I see everybody starting to come off the bus. They told us it was for some sort of oyster fest and it was the wrong bus. So everybody had to sit and wait. So we waited probably another almost an hour, I'd say 45 minutes, waited, and then they sent another bus. So another bus comes in, everybody's getting on, and then people are coming off again. They said, what's the problem? They would say, well, we can't let the wives on, and we can't let the alternate delegates on. We can't let they couldn't let the press on. They couldn't do but they did let the armed security guard, this female security guard with a gun on.
Oh, gotcha.
To protect delegates.
Yeah.
So they get on, other people get on. So now we've got 2 buses falling because Virginia's on the bus with us too. And that's when we realized we're in the same bus with this minority report people. And
wow.
Our bus is not getting anywhere near the convention. And it's starting to get really frantic because that was the day they were going to, approve this rules change. There were rules committee members on our bus. And the rules committee members are starting to get freaked out. They're like, we need to get to the convention. We need to get into that committee meeting, and we don't want to approve these rules. We don't want to, because they know, the Ron Paul people at least know, that this means if these rules change, Ron Paul cannot be elected from the floor. Long story short, the bus went in and out and around Tampa, the convention center, for almost 2 hours.
Wow.
The committee people that were on the rules committee, they jumped off the bus and they ran to the convention center. They made it on time to the meeting. Well, not on time to the meeting. They made it to the meeting, but they missed the vote. And next thing you know, everybody it's already happening on the floor. They already had that teleprompter up and they're reading that the ayes have it. And that was like, oh my God. And the other thing that creeped me out is that nobody realized what the heck what this was all about. The people that were in the party that were there to be participating in the convention, they really didn't know why there was this big kind of melee happening. I mean, it wasn't in the convention hall. People were, of course, yelling, yeah, no. They could have just easily done, instead of a yay, nay thing, they could have done a show of hands. That could have settled it. But no, they let this go on, and it's like a big circus. So the very next day, I ended up getting dressed up in very sexy funeral garb. And it had this beautiful big hat, and I had this tight black dress on with the black gloves and the back seam hosiery, and I had this little pocketbook. And I went out, and I'm like walking around making eyes at all these political type of people. I had these little business cards, and I had a quote on the business cards from George Washington's farewell address. It said, "Beware political parties. It will be the death of this country." And I would pass them out to everybody I met. And, I just wink at somebody and like give it to them. And that went on for a little while until somebody who I had given the cards to, specifically, and I remember they were from Hawaii, was a woman. She tracked me down, and she got in she threw the card at me and she pushed me. And then somebody else came up behind me and said, "Did you just push her? Did you assault her?" And it turned into this big fight. And it was happening right outside the media rooms. all the stations have like boxes, like, because it's all in a convention center. It's basically a for sports almost, so they each have their special boxes. And so I'm right there at the media, and they're not seeing this big fight. And meanwhile, I'm still walking around with my little cards. I've kind of gotten out of that. And this one guy comes running towards me, and I give him the card, and he takes it, and he turns around, he comes back to me. He's like, "This is great. This is great." I said, "Well, thanks. You're going to do a story on any of this?" And he goes, "No." I said, "Well, why not?" He goes, "It's not part of the prescriptive narrative." And I said, "Oh." And I go, "Do you," he gave me his card. And I said, "Thank you." And he ran into one of the media boxes. He was the senior editor of Glenn Beck's The Blaze. So I have the Blaze's senior editor's card as proof that he was the one telling me. He's like, "It doesn't fit the prescripted narrative."
It doesn't fit the prescripted narrative.
Yeah. And so then when I literally came home, and I thought I was going to have a breakdown, because I had my children. They had lived through all of these things with me, all of it. I mean, I was dragging them to rallies. I was having them hold up Ron Paul signs. And I spent more money than I probably ever needed to spend. I didn't have to spend that. And I think I had a little bit of a breakdown. And the only thing I could think to do was to share this story. And so I started writing, and it made me realize my story actually started even before this. It happened at 9/11 when I was working as a defense contractor. And I started just remembering all these things that I had witnessed, participated in, or thought were strange while I was there. But I couldn't just for my personality, I couldn't just come out and write a tell-all book. And plus I had kids, and honestly, half the stuff that I noticed in that first book, I could get in a lot of trouble for. So I decided to write it as fiction. And the story of the main character, her name's Jocelyn McLaren. My name's Rachael Mcintosh. Her story, mostly everything that happens to her happened to me. But I beefed it up. I made it like a novel. I made some parts really funny. I mean, there's parts in these books that are going to make you laugh. But at the same, because I figured out that the way to tell people this stuff, especially people that don't want to hear this stuff, is to make them laugh. So then they have to they'll keep reading. And the books, I'm finding out now, they are in the public high school systems in Rhode Island and Connecticut. However, I'd written them for Gen X because I was like, well, everybody I know has lived through 9/11. They lived through the housing bubble. Everybody knows somebody's lost a house or had to go bankrupt. And of course, now we've got this election thing going on. So that people have got to, at least this time around, see what's going on is just being ridiculous. So I wrote these books, and I've made it kind of my life's work to make it easy for people to consume this information. And being at these book shows I've been going to, I'm realizing my audience is actually much younger than I thought it was. I thought it was like maybe going into college age, because they had been young and when 9/11 happened. It's actually younger than that. It's probably about 14 years old. Not so much because of the way I wrote the books, but because they're curious in this stuff. These kids come up to me like, "Oh, we lost our, my parents went bankrupt. Yeah, I remember when we had to move out of our house. Oh, 9/11, because I don't know if you can see my covers back there, but that one little girl, she had to be 10. She was like, "Oh, that's those two buildings. That's the World Trade Center. Didn't ISIS blow those up before they changed they used to be changed something else, right?" And so she wanted to talk about that. So I think what I'm going to do, I am writing the next book in the series. That's another story altogether. But I think what I'm going to do with these 3 books is I think I'm going to do a curriculum so that kids could read these, and I could have them research, why is Jerry so upset that somebody rented a car and went to New Jersey the week before 9/11.